All right. So Brian's doing me a solid here, asking me to just improv the second half of a book I haven't written yet. And basically, we get the model for the outcome oriented community, right? Bring people in on education. They've got a goal. You help them follow through with accountability and behavior change toward that goal. Along the way, there's other related products that you can offer them. And then that kicks out content that can fuel your marketing funnel. So that's the outcome oriented community loop. So Brian's asking how to get started, and I'm just going to riff on this. This is going to be kind of messy, but what I would do. So the this is my draft in progress of what I'm learning about this stuff. So I think if you're starting, you got to do three things for your members. You got to mark the path, which is kind of like show them where they're trying to get to. So people always think about the reasons people don't accomplish their goals. So either they can't build the habits and do the behavior change, like they want to get six pack abs, or they want to build an exercise habit, or whatever they want to do, learn guitar. So they need to know that, like, hey, there's a progression. Learn to ski. It's like, yeah, you're going to fall down a lot on the first day. Guitar, yeah, it's going to be a mess. This is the path. But like, you show them the path exists. This is how it works. And then after that, it's about behavior design. So you encourage the action and amplify the reward so that it feels better when they do it. So what that actually means, so how you get started, and to get at Brian's question, is you need to build five main things. So obviously there's going to be some like home, which could be a Slack thing, it could be Circle or Mighty or any of these different places. You need a roadmap to help your members understand, like, what's the progression, what are the stages, what are the milestones, what's the progress look like between where they are and where they want to be. So like I know Brian is working on Exploded Media, because I know Brian. So Brian's working on Exploded Media, which basically is helping people build the content creation and content sharing habit. It was originally imagined, I was involved also, it was originally imagined as a productized service, but he's thinking like, oh, maybe it makes more sense as an education, outcome-oriented community to allow people to build this habit for themselves. So that's the map. It's like, this is how it works. In the case of our authors community, the map is like, you're going to go through scoping, drafting, beta reading and iteration, seed marketing, polish and publication. You know, these are the tasks at each stage, these are the deadlines, the milestones, these are the traps, these are the mistakes, this is how it works, this is roughly how long it takes. You don't need to know all of that for sure, but people should understand it's like, hey, if I am your tour guide, this is the path we are going to be following. Then you've got an onboarding flow and a heartbeat. These are two big things, which is kind of content and automation heavy. So the main goal of onboarding, I kind of need to jump around here. I haven't really decided on the ordering of this manuscript yet. So the way onboarding is all about getting them to start changing their behavior and to realizing it's working. So what you do is you encourage them to take an action. When that action works, they receive a win and they experience it. It's like this meaningful intrinsic reward. It's like, wow, I've made progress on my book. Wow, I've like created this content that's out in the world. Like, wow, I've done my exercise for the day. And then that reinforces the belief in the group's process, right? And so you kind of loop up, and the more they believe in you because the action worked, then the more likely they are to take the next action, which allows you to incrementally change behavior and move people toward the goal that they signed up for. Whereas if you screw up and you make a speed bump action, you know, a turtle, that's like a task that doesn't return a win. And then that undermines belief and they quickly quit. So, your onboarding is basically about planning those first few loops. Heartbeat is about continuing them after that. And then throughout this, you're going to be demonstrating that the tribal values. Seth Godin describes this as people like us do things like this. So as you drive them through these actions, it's reinforcing their belief that the tribal approach works. So cool. Now we're at the beginning of the question, right? That was kind of just context. Sorry, Brian, you're suffering through this. So what you want to do is this. This is where I would start if I was you. So you start with basically understanding your members. So The biggest thing is their ultimate goal or aspiration. It's like, I want to put out content 3 times a week. I want to finish a successful book. I want to run a marathon. I want to get a business up to 5K MRR, whatever it is. Along the way, there's going to be a bunch of smaller wins and milestones. In the case of my authors community, so little wins is figuring out your scope, exactly who it is and what it's for, and figuring out the title and subtitle. Another win is like sitting down and just doing your day's writing, even if you don't feel like it, or getting some good feedback after you put stuff out in the world. All of these things are intrinsically rewarding, but you want to amplify them in your design of the community. So you want to build structures into the community where once people are achieving these intrinsically rewarding wins and milestones, you then find a way to publicize it, to share it, to hype it up, to amplify it, to celebrate it, which serves 2 purposes. One, it makes that member's win feel more meaningful. And secondly, it encourages other people who are similar to that member. They're like, whoa, that person did it. That means I can do it. And so even if people aren't acting directly themselves, by observing or witnessing the success of people like them, that also increases belief in the group. So you've got the goal, you've got the wins and milestones on the way toward the goal. Then you've got the habit and behavior changes that will have to happen for them to continue down this journey. So for my authors, it's you need the writing habit, the sharing habit, and the listening habit. You know, some of that's about making the time and doing the work. Some of that's about overcoming imposter syndrome. Some of that's about building systems. Once you know the habits that you need your creators to build, you can start to reverse engineer from there backwards to figure out how you need to help them and get them unstuck, and what sort of education or guidance or support or interventions or whatever you need to provide so that they're able to succeed at this stuff. So I think it's a little bit helpful also to flip it, reverse it, and look at the frustrations. So when we join, when people join, do I have it open somewhere? No, I don't. Sorry. When people join, where am I? When people join, I go like, why are you here? And it's either accountability, education, or kind of like saving time, that sort of thing. Almost everyone joins us for accountability. And I go, okay, so it's really like a calendar problem. Accountability is a nice way to say like, my calendar is out of control. And so by joining us and by paying us a little bit of money, and since we offer these recurring weekly events, these writing accountability groups, we've basically found a way to fit the writing habit into their calendar in a way which is acceptable to them and the other stakeholders in their life. Because they can say like, oh no, I can't do that right now. I've got a writing group, which is easy. Whereas saying I can't do that right now, I am writing. People go, come on, you could write anytime. But if it's a scheduled event, it makes it easier. So by scheduling that event, we've helped them overcome this pain of the calendar squeeze, which then helps them to build the writing habit. And that's currently the only one we're doing a good job of. And one of my big focuses for the next few months is to start improving our support for their sharing habit. And then aspirational future moments, these are like glimpses of the future. And these are really just used for motivation. So you can say like, oh man, seeing your book on a bookshelf after you finished, you know, seeing your YouTube subscribers get to, 1,000 after you've been creating content every day for, 6 months or whatever it is. These are like little glimpses of the future. They're a little bit vanity, they're a little bit emotional, but they're compelling. And what you're going to do is you're going to use these moments in your copywriting and your action design as ways to hook people's emotions and then drive up their excitement. And so you try to create actions that are highly intrinsically rewarding with a low hurdle. You make them as simple and as easy as possible. Then you additionally pile on this extra motivation of these visions of these aspirational futures. And meanwhile, you're working in the background to help them with ongoing habit change. Because like for these sorts of goals that outcome-oriented community helps with, if people don't change their behavior, they're not going to get their outcome. So that is probably the way I would start. And then in terms of the authors, in terms of the actual like software design, because once you've figured out your user, oh my gosh, sorry, I'm scrolling like a crazy person. This is my fault. Once you've figured out your user, you're able to start building these 5 building blocks. So you're going to have a home, which I would recommend against using Slack or Discord. I would start with Circle or Mighty or something similar. Um, you're going to have your big content piece, which shows them the pathway. Onboarding flow is there's static onboarding and then there's dynamic onboarding. So static onboarding is stuff like start here. So when people sign up, they default to the start here page where it tells them what to do and gives them guidance. So that's like static onboarding. And then dynamic onboarding is based on what they care about, like whether they care about accountability, what stage of the book they're at, like whether it's their first book or their fifth book. They're going to get some sort of email drip series which tries to unstick and help them with their specific issues. So that's like the dynamic onboarding. In some cases, you also use events, rituals, personal attention. Heartbeat is people mostly use content or events. Rituals work sometimes, but they're a lot harder to pull off. Drew does a great job with rituals in trends.vc, where every Monday, I believe, or actually every day, he has a bot. I'm not logged into trends, but every day there's a bot which basically says like, hey, give your daily update. What are your priorities today? What are you working on? What are you thinking about? And if people get a long enough streak of doing that every day, this is a ritual that they've created in the community. It unlocks access to more exclusive private members areas. So they've kind of created this inherently, intrinsically rewarding ritual, but then they backed it up with this extrinsic bonus, which is a good model. What should these be for you? Honestly, I have no idea. So our heartbeat is like twice a month. We have a guest speaker who does a nice kind of informative, inspirational kind of Q&A. 3 times a week, we have writing accountability groups. Actually, 4 times a week now. Every 2 weeks, we send out an email. This can be content. It does a lot of jobs, this one. One of the things it does is it gathers, even if you have a small community, it gathers everyone into the same place at the same time. Because if you've got 10 people and they show up at different times, like they never see each other. If you have a couple of these heartbeat events, even if it's content, but you've kind of set this expectation that after the newsletter goes out, people are going to be talking about the content that was shared for the next 24 hours on the community hub. That gathers people, and then they start to bump into each other. It feels a little bit more live and active. I don't know if that's helpful at all. I know that was a super ramble, but the short answer, Brian, like where do you start? You start with this. You start by unpacking the member's context and journey. And then once you've unpacked that, I'm going to be sending this out. I think you're on the list, Brian. So you can look through this manuscript later. But after you've unpacked it, like I have here, then you can start going like, okay, given these building blocks, how can I hook into those pieces of the member's journey and support it? And yeah, it's going to be software, it's going to be content, it's going to be emails, it's going to be events. But the choices you make around those and the way you implement them, the way you describe them, the tempo, what they offer, all of that needs to be rooted in the members' experience, because otherwise, and their goals and their reality, because otherwise you end up building a bunch of speed bumps and time wasters.